Hello, everyone. Do not adjust your digital screens. We are here to dive into some current events and metaphysical quandaries, quantum silliness tonight on Outer Coincidence. Is it a coincidence? Well, we're going to leave that up to you. So, I'm joined tonight with Robbie, Project Storm Shadow. What's up with that, man? Is that your
I didn't
your
really mean for that to
sci-fi
be on
series?
there. That was that's that thing that I was putting together with the all of the Unreal Engine stuff and doing the cinematics. So
That's pretty cool, though.
I didn't mean for that to be on there actually. To be honest with you, but Project Storm Shadow does kind of fit into the narrative of hopefully what we're going to talk about anyway.
Yeah, man. So tonight I was looking into some stuff going on. There's a lot of the talking on Twitter, the hubbub, the word on the street, the everybody chewing the fat in the uh, alternative media realm. People are getting called black pilled for asking questions about the current state of the world and is what is happening leading us into someplace darker. And the people that are pointing that out, people are saying you're just black pilled, like you're not seeing the hope that we see in a brighter tomorrow for all the changes that are happening. So
Well,
that's
there
kind
is
of the
hope.
premise for the show tonight, and we're going to get into a few stories. But
Yeah, I think there is hope for the future,
mhm.
but there's also the great potential to go the other direction. And unless you're willing to at least put the black pill in your hand, maybe swish it around in your mouth a little bit,
Good show of that goo
you're going to be
black
missing
pill.
out. You're going to be sold on the hopium. Uh, the only way you keep everything in check is to be aware of the black pill. Now, obviously, you want to be red pilled, but too much black pill, I think, is a detriment, in my opinion. But hey,
No, you're right, and that's I want to make this kind of the theme for the show is to bring some levity to some of these darker topics of our current world that we're living in right now, and where it's headed. So I was trying to come up with 5 things for the show tonight, and my manager came in and was like giving me a hard time, and I'm just sweating it, dude. Sweating it.
you're sweating it.
Couldn't come up with 5 things.
Couldn't come up with 5 things. Oh, I see.
Um,
Well, I mean,
could
I don't
you?
know. All I can say is that, as far as I can tell, the woke culture, the gene pool is getting shallower and shallower. If you want to dive over in there, you're going to hit your head really hard. Uh, Come
Well,
up
I
with a big
mean,
lump.
you know, maybe if you're at work, maybe you should. I know it's a big ask. Maybe you should do something.
Now, you're not telling me that you were at work, not working, right?
No, no.
That's,
um, you know, so, but struggling to come up with 5 things I did today. So,
oh, that you did today. I see. Well, I can come up with 5 things that I did today, but they'd probably be pretty dang boring to most people.
I had to ask Rock to fill it in for me.
It depends, is a three flusher count as a thing that you did?
Well, to some. All right, so I wanted to kick it off tonight with this came across my Twitter feed, followed Jason Burmis, who does a really good job at looking into things that other people aren't really pointing out. And he talked about this person that I had never heard of in this presentation he did recently, and I thought we could give this a view and then kind of talk about it. So I'm gonna play this.
Guy packs in more facts in 15 minutes.
And we'll chat about it.
Possibly do. This guy will drop so many knowledge bombs. You're going to want to take notes. You're going to want to get your phone out. You're going to want to film it. This presentation is mind.
And main focus. All right, thank you, folks. Normally I wear a suit jacket, but I thought the transhumanist NASA bear was very appropriate because NASA is not really a space agency. We'll probably get there. But the main focus of my talk is actually what transgenderism, which Simone Gold was just talking about, is really about. It's about transhumanism. So what you're looking at right here are two books, Virtually Human and Unzipped Genes, and they are by a person named Martine Rothblatt, formerly Martin Rothblatt. Martine.
Had you ever heard of this person, Martine Rothblatt, before?
I have not.
Yeah.
And no real surprise. I'm not really one of the people that jump up and down and go to the church of AI. Put on my blue hair and go to the church of Jesus Christ of the digital domain, because that's kind of what we're talking about here.
This is
you want to talk about cultic behavior. Yeah, there you go.
This is interesting too. This is illustrations by Ralph Steadman. That threw up something in my mind because I was a fan of Hunter S. Thompson. Ralph Steadman was the illustrator of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. He was like the illustrator for that stuff. And Hunter S. Thompson's references to things like adrenochrome in that book, which would come from the
wonderful
human adrenaline gland.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting that he is the one of the illustrators in there. If I'm thinking of the right person. So he's one of the guys that was doing stuff for Hunter S. Thompson. But let's listen to a little bit more of this here.
Martine Rothblatt is the second richest transgender person in the world, and I would argue the most powerful, hands down. Now, what you're looking at in the middle is actually the symbology for the religion that Martine Rothblatt created based on transhumanism called Terrasim. Now, if you have any doubt that transgenderism is about transhumanism, she wrote the book on it, or he. From transgender to transhuman. In the forward, they talk about billions of sexes, but we're going to let Martine tell you about that as well. They go as far as to say marking down male or female on a birth certificate is the same as apartheid South Africa of putting down white or black. That's how insane these people are.
Get out your Ku Klux Klan hats.
Well, it's funny. Well, that image there was like a virtual representation of someone, and now that you could go into virtual reality, you could have whatever identity. You could be a dude that is a anime cat girl, or you could be a little animated character, or a cat, or a horse, or whatever.
What's kind of where this furry stuff comes from. You can put that stuff in the same basket. You get the furries, the LGBTQ, these people here talking about the digital ID with the billions of sexes. And the one thing that they all have in common is that they tend to destroy actual science while saying trust the science. But they'll destroy the science and turn it into a word game where the science becomes whatever we say you should believe, and at the same time denying plain in your face common sense. And it astonishes me how many people get to this level where they will be so fervently involved in this that they'll become violent, and they'll just, they'll lose their mind over the slightest little variation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I think it's an imbalance of like, kind of like this. We could go pretty down the rabbit hole on this, but there's like an over nurturing aspect of our society right now, I believe, as a component.
A little bit,
of
yeah. I know when I grew up, I would go out in the woods and be gone for hours and hours at a time by myself at 10 years old. And they didn't have search parties out looking for me with helicopters and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean that I wasn't putting myself in danger? Probably not. But I mean, I survived all of it.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot, that, growing up like that and touching grass. Well, so is the popular term now, is to go touch the grass. Like,
go touch the grass. wasn't that what the guy, the Doctor Who, the new guy from Doctor Who, the black dude that came on there and took over, when he's doing the LGBTQ thing, and they said,
David Tennant, I gave up on Doctor Who. Like David
yeah,
Tennant,
and then they said something to him. He said, "Well, all you disbelievers can go touch grass." What? In other words, take a hike in the woods, I guess. But
yeah, but I mean, that is a huge difference from growing up now versus even the generation, my younger brothers, the one that's closest to me is like 3 years apart, and there's a pretty big difference on our mentalities. And I think the big difference was like the introduction of being a terminally online person, where him and his friends were, not that I didn't do this as well, but we had like people over to play Magic the Gathering. We're still having like kind of human interaction, whereas they were like maybe starting to play video games online and starting to chat with each other more online and in the digital spaces than being physically together with each other.
We used to play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons back in the late 80s and early 90s.
Yeah.
Myself and I don't know, a handful of guys, and I mean, that's where some of those stories came from. But yeah, I mean, we had a great time with it. As a matter of fact, when I first got married, I would designate whole weekends to doing that, because every time that we got together, there'd be 6 or 7 of us get together, and we'd be together for 16 or 18 hours.
Yeah.
And just constant interaction, doing stuff, and you just don't see that kind of thing anymore.
Yeah. This digital age that we're living in right now is a real separation from that community type activity, and I think there's a real longing to get back to some kind of thing like that. I know deep down and in myself, going out and attempting to be more of a lone wolf type guy, but then realizing that even though I am pretty good being on my own, that there's still longing to have conversations and be interactive with people that I want to talk to, that are interested in the similar things that I'm interested in.
Well, that's where all this stuff that we're talking about here comes into play. You're talking about this transhumanism stuff, and you're talking about all this things with interactivity with the internet and this quote unquote metaverse that was the big thing back in the era of the COOF. It kind of died off real fast all of a sudden. Kind of a mystery there, but it all stems from the desire to interact with other people. But the problem that I see is that when you have so many quote unquote identities, you don't know who or what you're interacting with. And
Yeah.
so you're just interacting for the sake of interacting. And that kind of puts the people in this vicious cycle where they get this dopamine response by just interacting. They're not doing anything. They're on a hamster wheel. They're just spinning around, interacting. They're not accomplishing anything. And as a result, we have found ourselves in this over dependency. We live in a dependent society where the vast majority of people out there are dependent on a very small group of people to actually get things done, because the vast majority of people don't have a clue about much. They go clock in and do their job, but outside of that, they don't know hardly anything. They can't fix their cars. They can't work on their house. They can't change a light bulb hardly. They can't plant a garden. They can't raise animals. They can't, there's just a whole litany of things that they can't do because they're never exposed to it. And there's a big difference. It's a big difference between going outside and doing something and seeing a blog.
Right. And it's one of the things I wanted to do for myself was pick up more skills as an adult, learning that, well, I guess you kind of overestimate your abilities sometimes. Like I certainly did. Like I was going this time period where I left the job staring at screens and, sitting in kind of being a cubicle critter type work. And then thinking that I could go totally off the grid. I could be completely independent, self-reliant, all that kind of stuff. It was a rude awakening.
Swiss Family Robinson, just like that.
Yeah, it was a rude awakening for me to realize that holy shit, man! Like I have none of the skills required for me to actually pull this off successfully. And so,
tell me about it, man. I mean, listen, I went slack this last year on the food production and aquaponics, and now I'm trying to play catch up, and God, man, it piled up so fast. And here's what happened. I got busy doing things around here because, you've been here. I bought this place and it needed a ton of work. And so I went and borrowed money, and I've been doing this work on the place. And now I'm getting to the point where I'm ready to turn it over to a permanent finance. And, I kind of had my back against the wall here this last year. So I gave all of my fish to the local college up there and helped them set up their deal. And then that way I wouldn't have to maintain it, during the winter. But as a result, it's allowed the system to just, now I've got to, of course, I was gutting everything anyway to set back up, but it's created a lot of work, and it takes a lot. People don't realize what it takes. My goodness. I mean, just to do chickens takes a good bit. And, my wife was asking me a couple of weeks back about, how come we don't just get some cows? And I said, well, it's going to cost $10,000 to fix the fence. I've got 41 acres that I got to go around.
Yeah.
And the fence is 40 years old. It's fallen down, dilapidated all the way around. It's going to take all kind of money, to fix it. And so I don't have that kind of money to drop just to get a few cows.
Right.
But, and, not only that, but I mean, you're talking about if I were to hire somebody, like, you remember when me and you and Adam got out there and built that fence at my mother's?
Yeah.
Okay. If all three of us were to get out here on my place and do this, we'd have to clear things out in order to put the fence down. We'd spend a solid month doing it.
It would be a monumental
the three of us,
effort. Yeah.
And so, it's a lot of effort. We really take for granted the modern conveniences that we have enjoy.
Yep. It's one thing at a time. It's one day at a time, and beginning to understand where you're at and acknowledge where you're at, and then start to work incrementally over time to get better at getting to that stage. And it's not, if you think that you can go ahead and like make this happen overnight, I had a rude awakening for that. And
unless you grew up, in the Adirondacks or something,
hunting, fishing, trapping, gardening.
Or in the Rockies, you're going to have a hard time of it.
Oh yeah.
But, that kind of goes hand in glove with what we're talking about here on this, because what I'm seeing anyway, and maybe this is my opinion, maybe I could be wrong, but to me, it looks like we're having a divergence where you have two different groups, and one is wanting to go into this super techno direction, and the other is wanting to go back to the basics.
Yeah.
And the basics are what's going to put the food on the table. Now, what will eventually happen is if it takes off and gets to the next level, then the techno group will start imposing draconian measures on the people who actually produce the food and do things, because they won't be able to survive without it. And that's kind of been the big push for the robotics, get the robotics in place to replace as many people as possible, so that you don't have to depend on so many people to get the products to you, and you can live this technocratic life.
Yes.
But they've got a hard rude awakening coming as well.
Yes, I'd like to dive deeper into that, moving into later into the podcast. I'd like to cover a little bit more of this video, and then
turn that back on. Let me run to the restroom right quick, and
all right,
let it play for a second. I've got my earphones on, I can hear it, but I've already listened to it. So
all right,
but I'll be right back.
Martine, as they talk about their book.
The point of view that I have in my book, From Transgender to Transhuman, is that there are actually billions of possible sexual and gender identities. Sex emerges out of a delicate dance of pro-male, anti-male, and pro-female genes. Genes, as much as hormones, shape our brain gender or neurogender. There are multiple different genes that affect our brain tissue even before any genitals form. So it's just really not true that even biology creates just two different kinds of sexes or two different kinds of genders. It's much more something that we're socialized with.
So this is the big lie. There is no nature. There is only nurture. And you notice we went billions. Think about that for a second, folks. Not 1, 2, 3, 6, 11, 1,000, billions. And that's because they want you to reject your biology and embrace a digital or transhuman reality. Now, this is them talking about, and I encourage you to watch the full 1-hour lecture. Takes you right through it. But here's the basis.
I'd like to talk about technologically being transgendered, about technically being transhuman, similar challenges faced by people identifying as transgendered or transhuman.
So this is their science, to take technologies like mRNA and beyond and alter us, make us transhuman. Hang on to your humanity, folks. I'm encouraging it. So here, Rothblatt is with the wife that she stayed with, and there is the robotic replica of that wife, Bina 48, that Martine Rothblatt hoped would be the first to pass the Turing test. Now, on certain levels, the Turing test has now been passed, and for those that are unaware of what that is when an artificial intelligence can trick a human into not knowing whether it is a robot or whether it is a human. We have crossed that Rubicon, folks. They are also the head of United Therapeutics. When I say this person is the most powerful, hands down, GPS, Martine Rothblatt. Sirius XM, satellite technology, Martine Rothblatt. Growing human organs in pigs and other animals approved by the FDA, Martine Rothblatt. Now, some of these have already taken place. First person to get the pig transplant died a couple weeks later. This woman was the second person to get that pig kidney transplant. Didn't last. Had to take it out. She's on dialysis again. Remember, these people always overpromise and come at it with a benevolent perspective. Here, Rothblatt is essentially going to tell you about this future. And
This guy's the Jeffrey
gentleman talks about her
Epstein of the
Billie Jean King Award. You
LGBTQ
wanna know where all the money-
transhumanist.
It's so wild that, I mean, I had never heard of
Yeah.
this person, and it wasn't until, coming across this video that and realizing, wow, this person is involved in a lot of different things. And
Well, like I said, he's like the Greta Thunberg or the Jeffrey Epstein or something like that. He's a poster child for it. And they put it up there, and after listening to everything that went on there, it's apparent to me that he has taken it hook, line, and sinker. He drank the whole Kool-Aid punch bowl full, turd and all. Took it all down, and he can't understand why everything tastes like shit now. But yeah, he took the turd with the punch bowl.
this is a true believer in
True
this
believer,
idea,
yeah.
That
You see a lot of that going on these days. The true believer. I see a lot of this going on with the legacy media. Over the last 30 years or 20 years, they've coached and trained and hired the quote unquote true believers. Well, now the tides have turned, they can't get them out. And so they're in big panic mode. Like you got CBS and NBC, both are in free fall right now. CBS is fixing to go bankrupt because they got a $10 or $20 billion lawsuit on them over putting out false information. And at the same time, they're trying to sell to Skydance, and the valuation of the entire company is $12 billion. And Skydance is going, wait a minute, you got a $20 billion lawsuit, and your whole value of the entire company is $12 billion. But that's a symptom of this same thing that we're watching right here with this guy. It's people who, like I said, they've drank the Kool-Aid. And not only did they drink the Kool-Aid, they bogarted the Kool-Aid. They took it all down, They were the guy over there going, get away, drinking it all.
Yeah, to relate to that, have you ever heard of the marshmallow experiment?
Which one is that?
The Stanford marshmallow experiment was a study on delayed gratification in the 1970s, led by a psychologist, Walter Mischel, professor at
Hold on,
Stanford
is this the
University.
same group? Is this the same group that did the test to see how far people would go with somebody in captivity?
The Milgram experiments?
Yeah, I mean, is this the same group that did that? Is that Stanford? Or was that
I don't know,
different?
but Stanford does a lot of these psychological experiments.
Yeah. And
but this study, it's relating to what we're talking about a bit, is that a child is offered a choice between one small but immediate reward or two small rewards if they waited for a period of time. And so basically it's kind of a test of, you could see it as a test of like your order following capabilities in a way.
right.
Like some kids will just go ahead and grab, like people have made little TikToks or little short videos about this where they'll leave their kid and they'll leave like some candy on the table for them and say like, you can't have it until I come back or whatever. So, and then they video them and see if their kid's going to go and reach for that thing and eat it or whatever. And it's like,
Well, look,
this
that
is so
boils down
funny.
to not understanding the value of anything because of the way our society is set up and the way that we've been so brainwashed by all the inundation of social media. If you take a kid and you set him down with a table and you put $1,000 on the table or a cookie and tell him he can pick one, he's going to pick the cookie.
Yeah.
Because he has no idea what the value of the $1,000 is. And so we have the same sort of thing going on with these people, because they don't have any humanistic values they can fall back on. It makes you wonder if there wasn't a project involved in some of this stuff. If I could throw the tinfoil hat on, but it is I see definite correlations between this and what they call social engineering.
Yes. Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah. The social engineering aspect, and basically, I guess what they were, the aim, or what they were saying is that it's like short-term versus long-term gratification. Are you willing to have the reward come to you at a later period, or are you looking for that shorter term gratification? And it's saying that they found that children who were able to wait longer for their preferred rewards tended to have better life outcomes as measured by SAT scores, educational attainment, body mass index, and other life measures. I kind of see it as a way like this is an indication of how good of a little boy or girl you're going to be in the order following system, kind of.
Well, that's true.
Kind of how I see it.
I see too, there's where we're talking about this transhumanist stuff, they are seeking and craving the instant gratification.
Yeah.
So, you're on the flip side of the coin there, where socially you're better off to have delayed gratification because it psychologically prepares you better. You can navigate life better because you're not expecting all these things, But if you're so deluded,
disappointed when something doesn't turn out the right way, you can recover better from having.
Physically and psychologically. Because psychologically,
if you want everything right now, you need everything right now. You're going to be so let down and feel so horrible about your state that you're not achieving that success right now, but you haven't put in the work. You haven't put in the time.
Well, exactly. And that's where we have this disconnect going on. And then the political structure will tell these people, yes, but that's because everybody is biased against you and you deserve it.
Yeah, creating victims. Yeah,
and it creates a victim mentality, and so again, social engineering. But it's not anything new. You could go back to the turn of the century when you're dealing with the eugenics crowd and Margaret Sanger and the Trotskyites and those people. They were all about using psychology to train the public to do what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
So they really courted the science of psychology and brought Freud in and all these others, brought it into mainstream, and you had the big money get behind it. They started publishing things out, and they put out the perception that these people are speaking the word of God, basically, because they're telling you the inner part of your own soul and who you should be. And don't worry about this. Don't worry about that. Well, we live in a social society, and if you're going to behave that way, you're going to become isolationist at some point. And once you become isolationist, you're going to get your views are going to become more and more extreme. That's what I'm driving at. And at least compared to everybody else. But that's the nature of human reality. We live in a communal society that we have to get along with. And I'm kind of rambling, but do you see where I'm going with this? Because you can use this I've seen this pattern over the last couple of decades because I've filed for some patents and done some things, and you see the manipulation going on behind the scenes of the language.
Yeah.
And what they do is they take the language and manipulate it to make it appear to be one way or the other, or to put a slant on it, or this, that, and the other. And it's very subtle, but
Yes.
it's
Yes.
definitely there, and it's meant to direct people in a certain direction.
Well, it is that social engineering aspect
Yeah.
is to change or confuse the language so that we can't communicate with each other effectively. And
that's part of this transhumanism stuff too, with the LGBTQ and the pronouns, because it's a revolving wheel. It changes every just little bit. You can't keep up with it because it's constantly changing. That's by design. It's a social structure put up there by design in order to confuse a certain group of people. I dare say they have motivations way outside of what we're discussing here.
Well, this is kind of a good segue into the next thing that I want to talk about. With the American people showed up and voted in Donald Trump as like a rejection of this craziness that's been going on in our society. You could see it as like a commentary on that. Like, people overwhelmingly wanted something different. And
but they're calling a mandate.
What?
They're calling it the mandate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the voter mandate.
Yeah, to bring in Donald Trump, and Donald Trump's come in and been saying that let's get all these men that are identifying as women out of this sports in the high schools and all this stuff, and there's only going to be men and women now, and like people are standing up and saying, good, yeah, we want to see that. We want to see somebody like actually call it what it is. Let's stop living in an unreality. Like, finally somebody's actually saying what is real, and putting a lot of their, I guess, hope in this one guy to completely change.
Therein lies the danger.
Yeah, that's kind of what I want to get into. Is like, are we on the other end of the spectrum? If I don't know where we'd be if Cackles got into office, but
we'd be way further down the Rubicon than we are now.
I think it would have accelerated. Yeah,
accelerating.
But maybe now we have a little bit of a false sense of security now that we've got Donald Trump into the office. Maybe some people are a little bit like set back a little bit, and maybe it is like kind of a stage, and a story is being told, and we're kind of distracted from the greater picture, is what I want to get into next.
Okay. Yeah. I have no qualms about not objection, but no qualms about how everything is being deflected away, so that we have look over here, dangling carrot kind of thing.
Yeah, so
I will say that I've looked at this pretty close during the thing, and between the assassination attempt on Trump and the thing with Elon Musk's own son being taken away from him for transgender purposes, that has created the situation that we have. And so, people can jump up and down and say all they want, but again, we are a social society, and we are human in nature, and we tend to put anthropomorphic meanings on everything. And when I was watching the day when he was giving that speech in Pennsylvania and the bullet grazed, I mean, everybody was enthralled with it. And even people that I knew that were semi on the fence or even way on the other side of the fence were like, holy shit. It changed their point of view. However, you still have the mockingbird media out there spilling out their stuff, and they're not talking to you or I. They're talking to their people that they have in those pockets. I'm not saying like it's some kind of resistance thing or anything like that, but you have these pockets of people all over the place that have drank the Kool-Aid, that believe everything that they're being told. And it's on both sides of the aisle. Recently, it's been heavily to the left, and they went over the rails. That they went overboard with everything over the last 6-8 months, and it's made everything very apparent to most people that it's a game going on. At least anybody paying attention. I think 80% of the people now that are paying attention is like, wait a minute, this is not what I thought it was. You mean to tell me that it's not Republican versus Democrat? It's like a uniparty versus and deep state versus us, you know? So they've kind of come full circle with it, but at the same time, you have the legacy people who are way up in there in their 60s and 70s. They don't know how to respond, and so they're flailing like fish on the deck of a ship, trying to figure out how to respond. And it's not necessarily Trump as much as it is a sign of the times that people are waking up. I think that we have, for the first time in my lifetime anyway, the giant that is the American population has finally stirred awake. And where that goes, I don't know. It could lead down a lot of different roads, but for now, it appears that at least most people are saying, hold on, you have an equal number of people who are against members of the Republican Party as they are Democrat Party. So it's not really about the politics of that. And it's really boiling back down to this social engineering that we've been talking about, because people have been socially engineered for the last 70, 80 years that you have this bipolar or dipolar society where it's us versus them, it's left versus right, it's this, that. It's really not. What you really have is you have a dichotomy where you have a small group of people sitting over here pulling the strings, controlling out a network that's deceiving the masses.
Yes, and they have some long-term plans as well.
Right. And so the masses have finally woken up. And so I think this spells trouble for the transgender and transhumanist agenda, because they're going to question everything now. At least a majority of people will. Now,
and that's what I hope to elucidate here is that to remain skeptical, and the only person that is going to make a significant change in your life is you, and you are the person that needs to grow and push yourself to adapt to the coming changes, and not to be lulled into a false sense of security, because it's still the government. Like, all this is still the government. Like,
oh yeah, listen, man,
the government's gonna government.
Let me tell you what, Q is on a fish hook. If you're believing the Q stuff,
Yeah,
you're being trolled.
Yeah,
because the Q stuff is started out as
trust the plan. Trust the plan.
Yeah. It started out as a genuine group of hackers, and then quickly got absorbed and morphed into a CIA operative or operation. And so Yeah, the Q thing is just another social engineering project. It's a way of controlled opposition. And
All right. Yeah. I completely agree with that. I knew so many people that were kind of wrapped up in that too, like the
I did
people
too.
in the
And I was
freedom
like, dude,
movement.
man, get a hold of yourself. Listen, there's no 15D chess going on here.
It's still all just you. Like nobody's coming
It's
to
still
save.
just money. Okay.
Yeah, nobody's
Uh,
coming to
get
save
over
you. Like
yourself.
there's
Yeah.
a long plan that's being rolled out. Like there's one of the things in the game. It's just another trap to get you to have apathy or think that somebody else is going to change things for the better. And it really is just all up to you. Like you have to make the world that you want to see, and you have to be the change that you want to see in the world, I believe.
Yeah. And I believe, you can call this tinfoil hat if you want to, but I think you get enough people along that same line. Since consciousness in quantum physics, consciousness interacts with reality, you have the ability with large groups of people to steer reality in certain directions.
Yeah. Because crowds are a lot easier to control, or masses are easier to control, and it's mostly through emotion. It's not through logic. So
Right. And see, listen, I think these guys that were putting all this together, I think they knew all of this 100 years plus ago.
yeah, the masters of
Because,
psychology. Yeah.
because the thing about it is that you take the quantum physics aspect, you take the psychology aspect of it, and then you take the social engineering aspect of it, and then you start molding things and putting out things. You get masses of people believing things, and then it becomes the reality.
It has momentum. Yeah.
It has momentum, and this is anybody that thinks it's tinfoil hat stuff. Go look it up. It's this is real stuff. I mean, this is the way these people think.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yes.
let's carry on with this because I know we're falling behind on our transgender our transhumanist thing.
Yeah. The overall theme.
I'm just trying to
for
lay a
this
foundation
episode,
for what it is because this really dates back a couple of 100 years, and it's really
does.
coming to a snowball now. And
It does, and I'd like to get into more of that as we go forward with this series podcast, the outer coincidence, and like dive deeper into the history of how we got here. But yeah, this is a kind of a counter narrative article that came out recently through Whitney Webb's Unlimited Hangout, and the guy that wrote this is Ian Davis. This came out very recently on March 4th, and I started to read it the other day, and it's asking some questions on, diving into Elon Musk's background, and so I wanted to cover a few of the things in here because this is kind of inspired by a recent discussion that I've had with some people that I'm close to. And I was just asking the question about can we really trust Elon Musk? And is there a larger agenda at play here? And so, this popped up after the one thing that I had heard a while back was that his grandfather was involved in this Technocracy Inc. Back in the day. And his his name was Handelman, and so it goes into part of that in this article here. But this is a 2-part series article, and I would recommend that everybody go check this out. I shared it on my Twitter, but I want to highlight some of the things in here. Is opening it up and said, what did Elon Musk mean when he said he was dark MAGA? Exploring this question will certainly take us to a very dark conclusion. Yet, ironically, It is the very conclusion that once seen in the right light can liberate us. This two-part series examines the genuine but misplaced hopes of the millions of U.S. citizens who elected Donald Trump to his second non-consecutive term. Unbeknownst to them, they have voted to live in a technate administered by what is called GovCorp. In doing so, they have taken another step toward a multipolar world order, or New World Order, as some have long called it. All right.
All right, hold on. Let's stop right here.
All right.
Would you rather live in the bureaucratic world where you have unbound waste with unbound checks, or the corporate world where, supposedly there are checks and balances? This is their argument right now. So, their argument is that, look, in a corporate world, you would never get away with this. Right? I agree. In a corporate world, you would not get away with it because it's all about the corporation making money.
Well, it gets into.
It gets pretty sticky. I know. Yeah.
It gets into the question of is a rule by like a technocratic elite, is that
right? And that's the danger
more
here.
is that more beneficial than a bureaucracy, like you're saying?
Right. And so the question becomes, what are they doing right now? Are they going to actually turn that into a corporate structure, or are they going to turn it into a more streamlined bureaucratic structure? Now, the bureaucratic
I would
structure,
say that the corporate structure is already in place. They're most likely.
Yeah, anybody that doubts it, go look up, go to Dun and Bradstreet and look up the United States of America. You'll find out that the United States of America is a corporation.
Yeah.
And it has a credit rating.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that structure is already there.
Yeah, so the structure's there. The question is how far is the abuse going to go, or it's a mixed bag. I have mixed feelings about the whole thing, because I like the fact that they're going in and exposing all this stuff, with the USAID and all that. The question then becomes, what are they going to do on the flip side, on the back, which is kind of what this is pointing out. But yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So I want to get into some of Musk's background here, his family. Elon Musk's maternal grandfather, Joseph Hondelman, from 1902 to 1974, who hailed from Pequot, Minnesota in 1906. When Joshua was 4, his parents took the family north and settled in the Canadian province of Saskatchewan. In 1936, after 34 years of life in the Western Plains of the U.S. and Canada, Joshua Handelman moved to Saskatchewan's provincial capital, Regina, where he established a successful chiropractic business. Between 1936 and 1941, Handelman did more than realign spines. He was also research director and leader of the Regina branch of an up-and-coming entity known as Technocracy Incorporated, shortened to Technocracy Inc. in 1940. While serving in that post, he was arrested by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police for violating Defense of Canada regulations, under which Technocracy Inc. was deemed an illegal organization. As a result, Handelman was denied entry into the U.S., where he had intended to deliver a speech promoting technocracy. He was then fined and given a suspended sentence for heading up the controversial Technocracy Inc. Following that conviction in 1941, Handelman joined the Canadian Social Credit Party, SOCRED, which had been formed in 1932 by evangelist William Aberhart. SOCRED sought to implement the social credit economy theory of British engineer and economist C.H. Douglas. Like SOCRED, technocracy was based upon the industrial efficiencies ideas of engineer Frederick Winslow Taylorism. It has been dovetailed with the conspicuous consumption economic theories of Thorsten Veblen. Douglas presented his theory of social credit to tackle what he saw as the inequality of opportunity created by the centralized control and hoarding of resources and wealth. He identified the macroeconomic gap between retail price inflation and wage growth. He suggested filling that gap by creating the National Credit Office, which would be independent of state control to issue debt-free credit to consumers. Part of this national credit would be used to lower retail prices. The remainder would be distributed to all citizens, irrespective of their personal financial situation, as a way of creating a consumer demand for goods. Douglas' suggestion was an early model of the universal basic income.
Wow. Keep going.
Joshua Handelman's family of 7, which included a daughter, May Handelman, which is Elon's mother, I believe, left Canada in 1950 to set up a base in Pretoria, South Africa. As entrepreneurs and adventurers, they traveled extensively. By her own account, May Handelman was close to her parents and adopted their entrepreneurial spirit, sense of adventure, and work ethic. Unavoidably, she was also familiar with her parents' political ideas. May recalled that as a child, she and her siblings would do their monthly bulletins and photocopy newsletters and then put stamps on the envelopes. May Handelman married Errol Musk, Elon's father. Their son Elon was born in Pretoria a year later. He was an infant when his grandfather died in a plane crash. Nonetheless, as he was growing up, Elon learned about and became intimately familiar with his grandfather's political philosophy. Though Musk was evidently close to his mother, he elected to stay with his father in Pretoria when his parents divorced in 1979. After Elon's relationship with his father soured, he encouraged his mother to claim her Canadian passport. According to May, her doing so enabled Elon to quickly secure his own Canadian passport, emigrate from South Africa, which he did at age 17, and thereby avoid compulsory military service in that country. Elon's ultimate goal was to live and work in the U.S., but before that, he decided to head to Montreal from Montreal to Wadax, Saskatchewan, where upon returning to his roots, he worked as a farm hand on his second cousin's farm. There he awaited his mother May's arrival from Pretoria. She was followed by Elon's 2 siblings, Kimball and Tosca, who also wanted to be closer to the Handelman side of the family in Canada. He studied at Queen's College in Kingston, Ontario for 2 years before acting upon his aim of settling in America. Transferred to the University of Pennsylvania, where he earned a bachelor's degree in physics and economics. Subsequently, he interned in Silicon Valley tech companies before abandoning education to pursue his entrepreneurial ambitions. That's a little bit of a background on his family and his grandfather and his grandfather's influence on his mother. And so his mother may have, likely talked to a bit about him, about some of these ideas, I would believe.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be, I don't know, my grandfather, let me just throw this out. My grandfather was part of the strawberry pickers here in Alabama.
Uh-huh.
And they went around with Big Jim Folsom and got him elected because they would show up at the courthouse. They'd start playing. They'd play, draw a crowd in. Then Jim would step up, throw his soapbox up there, and give a speech. Afterward, my grandfather, after he got elected, my grandfather, was involved with the state government. And it didn't turn out so hot. But the fact of the matter is that he didn't know what he was diving into, number one. And number two, it didn't affect me that much. Now, here I am, the grandson, and sure, when I was a kid, I was hardcore, or Democrat, waving the flag. But when I got to be an adult, I started looking at things with more discernment. because, well, I was doing that research at the time, and I found out that things were not what they appeared. I can't help but think that this man, being involved in all of this politics and all of this technocracy and all of this technology, couldn't see the writing on the wall. So if you choose to go the way of the establishment, that's one thing. The one thing that I can say in the man's defense is that he has chosen to go the opposite direction.
Yeah, and I mean,
And so,
when you hear about this, and specifically in my case, as having an engineering background, I had thoughts of like, okay, well, why do we even need Congress? Why can't we replace Congress with a constitutional algorithm?
oh my God,
At
what a nightmare!
one
Can you
point,
imagine a Congress coin?
Yeah. So, at one point I was kind of thinking in similar ways as this is like, okay, a lot of these guys don't understand how like systems work and how you could more effectively streamline systems and things like that by eliminating bureaucracy and allowing for people to have more of like the free hand of the market, make the decisions and things like that.
Right.
And I would like to see people voluntarily be able to have a choice in how they interact with people and have a free market to be able to do that. And I really wouldn't want to see like a top-down control system put in place, but I can see where
Nobody wants to see a control system from top down. I know.
Yeah,
I don't.
yeah. I can see where the idea of this like is pretty enticing.
See, this is what that's what these people are taught at the universities, and it goes back into the social engineering. They're taught this philosophy, for lack of a better word, because I really don't consider it to be a philosophy. I consider it to be a cancer. But they're taught this philosophy that a certain group of people needs to be able to make the decisions, and everybody else are the plebes. And yeah, it's not the way society works. Now, it is to a certain degree, and it has been as long as the information flow has been monitored and regulated. But we're out of that area now. The genie's out of the bottle, and it's only going to get further out of whack as the further AI goes, because people are going to use AI to go search things. They're going to say, oh, well, let me go check this out. And they go, holy shit. And then they're going to start clicking links and back and forth. And then all of a sudden their internet gets cut off, and they're going to be, holy shit, you piece of shit. And I've experienced this firsthand, that when you get too close to the target, you start getting bombarded. And I don't think that's any different with society. The people that are closest to the target is going to be the ones that are getting the most flack.
So just as a way to kind of close this out is I would encourage everybody to go read this article and come to your own conclusions about where we may be heading. It's very detailed. It continues on quite a bit, but I'd like to read just these next couple paragraphs and then kind of close it out on some thoughts on this. In October 2024, Amazon billionaire Jeff Bezos posted on Musk's X platform an alluring statement. The network state for Mars is being formed before our eyes. Musk enthusiastically replied, "The Mars technocracy," to which Bezos responded, "Count me in." As he continues to dream about colonizing Mars, Musk has made it abundantly clear which political system he prefers. In 2019, he wrote, "Accelerating Starship Development to Build the Martian Technocracy." Note his use of the word accelerating. For Musk, accelerating doesn't simply mean an increase in velocity. Musk has long advocated universal basic income. Here's one instance of his embrace of UBI at the World Government Summit in 2017. Musk said, "We will have to have some kind of universal basic income." Another example.
All right, hold up. This is 2017.
Yes, 2017. Yep.
And this is when he was trying to push his robot thing. So he's trying to push his robot thing, and I'm not defending him, but I'm just saying he's trying to push his robot thing. It's the reason why he's saying these things. He's trying to push his robot thing. 2017. This is prior to his own family being affected by the transgender and humanist events. So
yes. So it goes on to say another example. In June 2024, speaking with then Prime Minister Rishi Sunak at the UK convened first global AI safety summit, Musk painted a utopian vision of an artificial intelligence dominated society in an age of abundance before adding, "We won't have universal basic income. We'll have universal high income." In other words, he was suggesting that the masses would have perfect lives of abundance enabled by the ultimate AI-controlled distribution of UBI. Now, the author is kind of making an assumption there, I would say, of what he is talking about here. And he could be saying that everything, if we use technology appropriately, will just have a lot of abundance, and you won't have to work as hard for having more abundance.
right, I'm gonna throw something out. Gene Roddenberry.
Yeah.
Go look up the Gene Roddenberry thing. I mean, plug it into an AI if you want to. Gene Roddenberry correlation to Musk statements on UBI. It's based off of a world where abundance is there because the technology allows you to have infinite energy and infinite productivity.
Yeah. If we got to that point in technology.
Yeah, we got to that point, and so we're not there. Right now, we're at a point where there's 80% of the population is supplying the productivity for the 20% that are supplying the guff on the manipulation. And until we flip that script on there to where we have technology that's supplying all of the productivity, we're not going to see a change. They're going to hype the change. They're going to do things and make things. But when you actually see that flip, that's when the change is coming. So look out, because, and we're approaching the threshold. We're approaching the threshold now to where the technology could actually flip the script and make it to where the productivity on the technology side outstrips the human productivity. And I'm not talking about intellectual productivity. Anybody can sit there with an algorithm and direct traffic or predict weather. I'm talking about what's it going to be when the productivity of the machinery and the technology that we have outstrips the human productivity.
Right.
So
yeah,
we're kind of at that threshold now. We've got a little ways to go.
Yeah, and
ready?
And I'd be, in my mind, I like the idea of like, yes, we can use this technology as a benefit to us to help us like increase our productivity. And
well, listen, we're going to keep going. I'm going to turn my camera off. We're going to keep going, and Let me turn my camera off. I gotta pass it
Yeah.
on,
Yep.
and we'll just keep going.
All right. So I want to get into. So you asked me to get into some stuff about AI, or ask AI. So I did pop this into Grok and asked to give me Gene Roddenberry versus Musk's ideas on UBI. And so this is what Grok is giving me. Gene Roddenberry and Elon Musk both envision futures shaped by technological advancement and societal implications, including ideas related to universal basic income. However, their perspectives differ slightly due to their distinct contexts, one rooted in speculative fiction and other in real-world innovation. And then below is the comparison of ideas on UBI based on Roddenberry's vision of Star Trek and Musk's public statements.
Same principle.
So
Close to it, anyway. Yeah.
So Roddenberry imagined a utopian future where humanity had transcended economic scarcity. In the Star Trek universe, particularly in the 24th century, as depicted in The Next Generation, advanced technology like replicators and limitless energy eliminated the need for money. This post-scarcity society implicitly aligns with the concept of UBI, though it goes beyond it. Rather than distributing a fixed income, Roddenberry's federation provides for all citizens' needs, food, shelter, education, and healthcare without requiring work. The economy isn't based on wages, but on personal fulfillment, exploration, and contribution to society. Do you really think that would work? I mean,
well, do you see the correlation? Because what's happening is that they're trying to say that this is here, but it's not.
Yeah.
And so the UBI only works if there's equal energy, equal production, and equal distribution of goods, services, and supplies.
Yeah.
It's the only way it works. If you don't have that, it doesn't work.
Right. Yeah, I think it's too idealistic to believe that. I mean, for one thing, I don't even know if most people would just want to like check out at that point, because they're not like having to strive for really anything. Like they're just maybe not even growing as a person, because
Look, that's the goal.
yeah.
That's the goal, because literally, I believe this group of people would like to see a certain other group of people in a situation where they were utterly dependent on every move that they made.
Yeah.
And so it is a technical, what do they call that back in the Middle Ages? A technical fiefdom.
Yeah.
What you're reestablishing here is a technical aristocracy,
Right.
where you have a small group, maybe 5 or 10 families, that control all the technology that dictates the lives of everyone. Now, the real danger with integrating with the things that we've been talking about here with the transhumanism is that what happens when you integrate yourself with a system that's controlled by an aristocracy?
Right.
What
Yes.
happens if for whatever reason your corn crop falls short that year?
Right.
And this goes back to the social engineering again, because nobody considers all of that stuff. They just live in this utopian dream. They're all drinking the Kool-Aid. They're munching down and crunching on the almost frozen turd. And, I don't know how else to describe it, because you're drinking the Kool-Aid, you got a turd going down, and it's frozen like a chunk of ice, and you crunch it up, and your breath smells like crap, and you taste crap because it is crap.
Yeah. So this is the question I keep asking myself, is that just going through my own life experiences, like if you live in a comfortable situation and you're never pushed to do something challenging with yourself, then you stagnate as a person, and you begin to start to dwell in your own mind and on a lot of a lot of negative things, and then you're also not really living life. You're not really like touching the grass, so to say, and enjoying the the moments of life, and the creativity, the relationships, the adventures, the adventure of something. I would really love.
You're just enjoying the taste of bass to mouth.
Yeah. Slap of the best man. Slap of the boss man.
It's not my fault if you wanted to do bass to mouth, but
so I don't know, like it's an idealistic to think about, a future where we have a lot of abundance, and I would like to see a future where there is a lot of abundance, but I would like to see it more in like the Jeffersonian idea of like small independent people and families that voluntarily work together and trade with each other and have thriving like individual businesses and things like that.
well, listen, you don't have to have either or. You can have both.
And it probably will be a future with both. It will
Yeah, you can
probably
have
be
both,
a future of this
because
kinda,
it's going to take both to get there.
yeah,
Frankly, without one or the other, it's not going to go.
yeah. There's too many fault points in our current system that could turn into a kind of an existential, cataclysmic breakdown of how everything works with the monocrop type agriculture, the CAFO way of raising animals, and it's very much a centralized system where there are a few companies that control a lot of the food and all those resources, and the practices that are going on right now lead to a kind of a house of cards. If one of the bases gets knocked out, then it takes the whole thing down. So you also need those independent people
right
to
now,
kind of fill in the
right?
gaps. Yeah.
I mean, is it not the problem? I mean,
It is the problem. Yeah. Yeah. So you do need, I see a future where it could, like we were talking about earlier, where there could be like kind of a bifurcation of this technocratic system is implemented, and maybe it captures a certain amount of people, and then there are people that don't want to participate in that kind of go in a different direction, but maybe those people somewhat enable that to happen as well. I don't
kind
know.
of a where is John Galt situation.
What are your thoughts on that? Yeah, like
Well, I really believe, I honestly believe that we have a military industrial complex that has had access to and been privy to a lot of technological information over the last 80 years or so. I believe that they have separated themselves out from the government per se that we say can't control them, because that when you look right at the legislation, they have provisions in there that prevent people from oversight, prevent people from doing things, and that's by design. So they don't want people looking at what they're doing. As a result, they've wound up with technologies and physics concepts that are decades ahead of what the public would normally perceive as normal. And
Yes.
we've seen some little inklings going on. They've sprinkled some stuff out. I'm constantly amused by this stuff where, UFO lands in somebody's backyard in Nevada, and they do all this stuff. The bottom line is that 90% of that stuff, I'm not saying all of it, but there's the overwhelming majority of it is us. It's our power, it's our technology. And to insinuate, then it's another side that it's some kind of outside source providing this. And therefore, we have to have all of these extraordinary powers brought into the government and this, that, and other in order to combat that. That's just another psyop.
Yeah.
I mean, good God, people.
Well, on Joe Rogan,
I know that's a
recently
tangent.
with,
I know it's a tangent. I'm sorry.
No, it's not really a tangent. It kind of ties into some of Elon's recent statements on Joe Rogan. I believe that they were talking about, he was questioning him that the U.S. government has this technology and is keeping it hidden. And Elon came back at him and said that the rocket technology that I have is the most sophisticated. Otherwise, I would have seen it because I have very high level clearances. This is what he came back at Joe Rogan with, and
I got all BS on that shit.
I know. I when I heard that, I was
total
like,
BS.
I don't know. I really think that they are much further ahead of where the public is, and that they have kept that compartmentalized and hidden. And
I mean, I'm a peon and I've seen more than that. So come on.
Yeah. So, just getting back into, some of these strange things that have occurred in history. What happened to all Tesla's documents that were taken from his apartment when he died? Like, the guy T. Townsend Brown that was experimenting with electrogravitic technologies back in the 50s. Ming Lee, what happened to her and her research, just being there talking about, using yttrium, barium, copper oxide discs and high energy to create an anti-gravitic effect.
Yeah, that's in Thomas Bearden's book there.
Yeah. Apparently she's in a grave in Madison. She's apparently passed away. But then another lady that was looking into a lot of these exotic technologies and talking about them and wanting to start an institute in Huntsville, Alabama. Her name is Amy Estridge. She commits suicide and not too long ago, maybe in the past, I don't know, 4 years or so. And, just strange, these strange things that have happened where anybody might be flirting with some of these ideas.
Well, let's talk about exotic technology.
Yeah.
IBM and wasn't IBM, it was it was Facebook, or was it Google that put out the thing about the new quantum chip?
I did read or went a little further into the Microsoft's
Microsoft, that's what it was. Yeah,
Microsoft's topological chips and their claims there, and watched a video of somebody covering that. And one of the
It
things
seems
that,
pretty sketchy under normal circumstances.
well, one of
if
the things
you-
that he relayed is that Microsoft is claiming that they have seen positive results with this, but they have not like fully shared their test results. And so as it
Which-
stands now, it's a claim.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Which screams to me insider information. Hence my handle, Project Storm Shadow, because there's things going on under the hood with all this stuff that we don't fully understand. And I don't think the people involved in it understand it.
Yeah, I mean, you can compartmentalize things so that only certain people know a part of the story, but they don't know, the larger implications of the thing that they're working on. Like, how did they
Right.
keep the Manhattan Project such a secret? I mean, those guys were working on stuff, but may have not really understood the full implications of what they were working on.
Right. And that's what's going on here with this chip. We have something going on, and I'm going to come out and say that I think that we're looking at an M-state material spread over 1 atom thick over a nanowire. Now that's what I'm saying right now, but if that is the case, then we should see all sorts of quantum effects that are weird and unexplained, depending on how much voltage is put on the particles of the nanobridge.
So when they were explaining this topological chip, they were saying that when you go in to observe something, that it changes its state. So with the quantum
Well, yeah, that's the
chip,
observer effect. Yeah.
yeah. So with the quantum chip, it can be on or off, or an in between state, both on and off.
It's like when your eyes are open or closed.
Yeah, but what they said that
Yeah.
their breakthrough is that they have like something that creates a distance so that there's a separation, I guess, to eliminate the observer problem. Something.
Well,
like,
they have the two
something to that
blocks,
effect.
and they're calling
Something to
them
that effect.
gates. And these two gates they have a nanowire spread across the gates, and they flood the nanowire with particular types of electrical signals, and it creates this, for lack of a better term, a foam over the top of the wire, right? And the number of electrons in that foam determine the 1 or 0 output of the algorithm on the device. And the problem is that when you start incorporating in-state materials on there, it can fluctuate wildly with the slightest little variance of even temperature or particles from the sun or whatever. But they claim to have a method to be able to shield that, or at least to cancel it out. And it kind of reminds me of the patent that we had where we were canceling out algorithms. But the principle there is that you have a shielded nanowire with an in-state material over it, and the number of electrons that are on the wire determine whether it's a 1 or 0. And they can discern between that in various states and have it flipped so that they can read both sides of the coin. And this implies that they are pulling energy or information, at the very least, from a quantum source that's unknown. And to me, that raises the red flag and says, wait a minute, danger, Will Robinson. We got something going on here. You know, if you don't know where your information's coming from, how can you trust it?
Yeah. Right. Kind they don't fully understand it. So it's kind of
No,
like
they don't nowhere near understand it.
so it's like, yeah, you're kind of playing with something that, what are the larger implications of that? Like, are you stealing information from a possibility? Are you blocking like metaphysical like possibilities or something like that? I don't know what the
Well, to
implications
carry it
are.
one step further, let's say that the quantum model is correct, where you have the multi-universe theory.
Yeah.
I don't think that it is necessarily 100%. I think there's a percentage of it that's correct, another percentage not. But the percentage that is correct, let's say that you're getting information from somewhere and you don't know where it is. It could be anywhere in time and space. It could be us 1,000 years from now sending information back to tell us how to build a device to enslave ourselves.
Yeah,
It could be the transhumanist outcome of us and one of those branches telling us what to do. So we have to be very careful, because otherwise we will convert our species and I hope that makes sense. I'm not trying to rant.
No,
but it does alarm me.
Who knows what the implications are? I mean, when you're dealing with something that you're not fully
Right.
you don't fully
And
grasp.
So this is the basis of this transhumanist stuff. So you have this transhumanist movement. Let's assume that we, as a species, move towards it, and we have all these nanoparticles that we hadn't even discussed yet implanted in our brain as a species.
Yeah.
That turns us into the Borg.
Yeah.
We get our instructions from some unknown source out there, an intelligence that we don't know who it is, where it is, how it comes to our universe, or why. All we know is that we're subject to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the dark aspect.
That's kind of the black pill side of it.
Yeah.
The thing about it is that the people that are developing the technology, they shirk that off with a like, and they just barrel forward.
Right. Well, relating this to the mRNA shots, I was listening today to a podcast where they were talking about how they have the studies in animals with the mRNA showed that the spike protein thing that the mRNA does and creates more of these spike proteins thing. This is actually genetically carried on into the next generation and subsequent generations. Is that there's an alteration of the immune system that is passed on actually after this mRNA
part of the system
has been affected.
Imagine if you're the technocrat and you're in control of the AI, and the AI is locked into your DNA and your immune system. All you have to do, if a certain demographic of people don't agree with you, is turn it off.
Yeah, you have you now are owned by the pharmaceutical companies.
Well, you're owned by whatever power. The pharmaceutical companies are a front. They are the people who are employed to bring about the change. I'm talking about the people who are controlling it. And we don't know who those people are. And that's even
Well, that's
scarier
what
than
Monsanto's
knowing it's
done.
pharmaceutical.
Well, that's what Monsanto has done with patenting seeds, is that if your seeds spread it into somebody's field that is growing a non-Monsanto seed, and now their genetics mix with the Monsanto seed, now they're saying that they have a claim over those seeds because they're part of their patented intellectual property with their, biological gene editing and stuff. So
Well, it's lawfare. It's lawfare.
now, so now once this mRNA is incorporated in the body, now are you now like part of the patent on the mRNA? Like,
Well, yes, you are. I mean, I've been screaming this from the daggum rooftops for about 5 years now.
yeah,
Is that when you partake in this stuff, you are becoming part of the system. You are becoming a commodity to the system, and you are property of the system. And if you don't think that's true, go look up the damn legal part of it.
yeah. No, yeah, I think it is setting people up for that. Like,
We're setting a precedent is what we're
like
doing.
you didn't read the terms and conditions. Like,
Yeah. It's like Cartman,
sorry.
on
I'm
the
sorry,
Cinepad thing.
you never read the terms
Oh,
and
you
conditions.
didn't read it. Oh my God.
Always read the contract.
Unfortunately, that's where we are.
We made you aware it was in the contract. If you scroll down to the terms and conditions on this page, you are now property of.
It says it on page 312, paragraph 4.
Yeah, just like at the end of Willy Wonka, where he's
Yeah.
like, "You sold fizzy lifting drinks, and you get nothing."
Nothing, sir. You lose.
Good day, sir. Good day.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we're at. But instead of the Willy Wonka and the chocolate factory, we're dealing with our own human health.
Yes.
Once we get the nanoparticles in the biosphere, we're in trouble.
Yes. Well, I do think that the overall people that are think that they are running everything have to operate where people have a voluntary choice, but they may spin it in the way that, like, we told you we were doing geoengineering and you didn't stop it, so you agreed.
Well, yeah, that's the Luciferian
Yeah.
doctrine right there. You
Yeah.
know, we told you, but that's the one thing I do like about what's going on with Trump administration at the moment, anyway, is that they are throwing a huge, a big donkey dong sized monkey wrench in the whole operation. And, I've got so much enjoyment out of seeing those people freak out and lose their mind,
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it has been fun to watch that, of all the people freaking out on what I would love to see is all these people that had those government jobs that they can't come up with their 5 things, is to go and do something productive with their lives. Like, I think they'll be much happier instead of just passing something along and having this cushy government job.
well, I'm going to throw a prediction out for you, and you could take it with a grain of salt, but I predict they're going to pick about 10 or maybe 20 government employees with a quote unquote extreme hardship, and they're going to bring them to the forefront, and they're going to make them poster childs and try to talk about how horrible it is that anybody would want to cut government waste.
Yeah, they very well could do that. Yeah, in the mainstream media for sure.
Yeah, but anyway, I know that wasn't the subject of what we were going to get off on. The the transhuman stuff.
Well,
I do have a lot of
overall, it's like-
concerns, and I think that we're headed down we're kind of barreling down an interstate with all the exit ramps turned off. You know, we're at the point now to where we have maybe 2 or 3 exit ramps, and after that, we're going down the pipe. And whether we like it or not, and it doesn't mean that it's going to succeed. It just means that they're going to try.
Yeah. Well, hopefully more people become a little bit more aware. Look into this information. Tell us what you think about it. I'm going to have to get off for tonight, Robbie, because I need to
I do
get
too,
up early.
man. I'm sorry. I got on a rant and just went to spilling my guts. I shouldn't have done that, but hey.
No, that's great. I like to deep dive into this stuff and ask these questions. So, yeah, man.
Well, I
Does
think
there
we're going to have
anything
to do this about 10 more times to get through this issue.
Yeah, we'll look at another aspect of some of this and maybe get into some of the history. Get into more of the history of how we got to where we are in later stuff. But thanks for taking the time to come on. And yeah, where can people check out your stuff, Robbie? You got anything you want to promote or anything you want to talk
Man,
about?
I don't really have anything I want to promote, not on this front. I mean, I do house plans, and I'm working on a sci-fi thing, hence the Storm Shadow, which is kind of relevant to what we're talking about, because the idea of Project Storm Shadow is that AI takes over, and we wind up finding ourselves subject to the fate of multiple worlds, and we don't understand why or how. And so, and it's all due to quantum computers and the information flowing in from unknown areas. And that's what the story's about. So,
Hell yeah. Well, all right, guys. And yeah, we'll be doing these shows on a regular basis. If both mine and Robbie's schedules can coordinate to keep, this little
I'm going to solve this problem. I'm going to be buying me another camera here in the next day or two.
All right.
Because, yeah, my daughter does a thing with gaming, and so
You're
she already
sharing
had
a
a plan
camera
for
right
weeks
now.
in advance, this, that, and the other, and we've been sharing the thing because it, didn't conflict. But yeah, it's getting time for me to buy another camera.
Well, cool, Robbie. Well, thank you again, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Have a good one, man.
All right, you too, brother.